Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to The Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. And I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and your guide along the way as we dive back into the second part of my conversation with Nick Diffatte. And also recently, what's kind of interesting about Nick is not just that he is a hysterically funny comic magician, that he does incredible high-level magic, and also he is just very funny. But he when I was looking into some cups and balls stuff when I was in Vegas last, that I wanted to start exploring a little bit for my daughter, who I'm using the cups and balls. I'm planning on using that to get her deeper into magic, if it's possible. Who knows? I tried to get her into Star Wars and that failed miserably, so who knows? But at least she's performing now and having a great time. She just did an incredible straitjacket escape here recently, and that really, out of all the stuff that we've done, that she thinks is cool, and it changed her attitude towards practice and everything. So there might be hope yet. Straitjacket is a gateway drug to magic. But anyway, the great thing about Nick Diffatte is that he's not just on about comedy and has great thoughts about magic. He also has incredibly just recently released a book on the centaur, which is a mentalism magic thing. So he's released something called a Subgenius Centaur, and it's Tannen's that's released it. And it's one of those sort of pamphlet books that really just stirs something in me, that I love, that there's incredible, cool, magical secrets inside these little books that are referencing kind of zines. So that's what it has, this feel for me, that it's like really cool, awesome stuff inside, but it's got this DIY kind of look, although it's of course a very stylish book being published by Tannen's and everything. And what is the content about? Well, Teller, the famous silent partner of Penn and Teller, has given a quote and says that it's elegant, practical, and ingenious, the cleanest, most bulletproof solution to the centaur problem. Teller said that, and that is quite something. So if you are interested in magic and you're interested in Nick Diffatte and you want to see that he has got some serious chops, not just as a conversationalist and sharer of stories, but also on hardcore development of practical, awesome material, not just for the comedy magician, but also for serious working mentalists. So check that out if you're at all interested in these kinds of things. But yeah, that is the closest we've ever gotten to having an ad on this podcast. But it's because it's totally awesome, worthwhile. And anyway, because that's really all you can get now. His book is still sort of out of print, so unless you're in a brick and mortar bookstore where they happen to have one or two books standing in a corner overlooked because it's fallen behind Juan Tamariz's rainbow books or whatnot, then yeah, this is somewhere you can see his voice and hearing share hardcore magic. So let's get back to the conversation. But just before we get back to the conversation, just click subscribe on this podcast. It would make me tremendously happy. All right, let's jump back into the conversation with Nick Diffatte. I think that's one of the things that interests me about magic, where so much of it is like everybody was so many like standard shtick about the cups and balls is that no magician, you would be measured by the fact that you would have this. Whether that's true or not, it's certainly got a grain of truth to it or so.
Yeah.
Like it becomes this sort of litmus test of going, have you been into magic? Because if you have been into magic, then you probably have a routine or whatever. What is this? And you have this as a sort of little test or whatever. But I lost my thread there. But basically that each trick that exists out there, they're in this enormous space of the general public, which don't know anything.
Yeah.
So that's also why it's cool that we're sharing, because that's increasing. And the amount of stuff that's written about magic, the amount of people that have an encyclopedic knowledge of what was written when, is great, because there are people who, and a lot of those people who have that encyclopedic knowledge don't necessarily perform it well. But then there's people like Max Maven or yourself,
Johnny,
that just have that both have the chops, but also really has an encyclopedic knowledge of methods and everything. And that, I think, is lifting the art of magic, like at least in potential, because there's always this like...
And there's always this like, even though, so I think, just to circle back a tiny bit, the difference between Jared and a guy that just does cups, like buys Gazzo's routine and does cups, right? That's always the classic example for me, is like, you almost see less people do the classic, like the Vernon routine now than you see do Gazzo's routine.
Yeah, that's
with
huge.
All the bits. Like even at Magic Camp this year, it was kind of funny to see kids doing Gazzo's routine. But
that's also good though. If you learn and you have that routine in your bones, and then at some point, like they see the praise that's bestowed upon the guy who does not just 2 coins, but a washer and a thing, and talks about his dad, and hopefully they will see that what that is, rather than, wow, you did that joke from Gazzo's manuscript really well, or like, oh, you should like. That you want that thing, and that you want to find your own original take on it. But it was, of course, there's 2 meanings to the original. Is that, did you actually invent it, or are you presenting it so that it becomes an original experience for the audience? And that's also valuable. And but when you then are in Covent Garden and you're watching, and then you see 2 guys hot on the trot coming out and doing magic, and both of them do the same routine, you go, this is really weird. Like, did they learn from each other, or why is this
it's
or
so
the people
weird.
who go, or the juggling on a tall unicycle or whatever. But there are things that just work, and once you go out and you become a worker, it's very difficult to break from those things, because the thing actually works. So hard to start from scratch. And I guess that's it too, with your ring and everything. You did 1,000 shows before you came on the radar or whatever, and I'm doing the records, and it was all developed in just doing shows, and then at some point that like becomes its own thing. But I almost have this feeling like I don't have time to do material that starts out as sketchily as that was when I very, very first did it, when it literally was on a whim. That's
funny. That's a good point.
And I now need material to be better immediately, because I'm being paid as being, even when I'm in Norway in a whatever, it's Captain Frodo, and he has a certain reputation and a certain expectation, and I can't come in and have a whole half-baked show
just trying some stuff
because it's original. I need to have stuff that kills. So then you go, oh well, then standing on the shoulders of the giants who did those 500 shows and then put it in a book with, like you say in your book, well, I don't put all of my jokes in, because that's how the nature of this game is. Like, and some of those routines, like you mentioned in the brochure, it's 1 page of tightly written typewriter that says the method of how to build it, how to do it, and so there's no kind of structure to it. You all have to come up with that yourself.
And I think that's its own thing too, right? Where some people buy those books. I really should circle back to before I completely forget. Even though there's those guys and girls that crush for people that have never seen magic with a coloring book or linking rings or whatever, and doing just the standard hat, there's a big difference. I think it's also like people can feel it, that Joel Hodgson has a great, I don't know if it's his, but he said it and I'm going to attribute it to him. But like, the difference between an amateur and a professional is the number of decisions that they make.
Good point. So, huge part of Jay's thing, making choices.
Yeah, you have to put constraints on it. So like in my hour, I don't do a card trick. And that's not just because I'm like, I'm different than other magicians. It's just that it doesn't fit in that show. And so, and I don't want people to ever, like my girlfriend, if you pull out a deck of cards and go into a close-up set, her brain just turns off, and I, very understandably, because she works in an environment where she sees a lot of that stuff, and a lot of it is just total, fart in the wind card magic. Like, So so there's a lot of those things where it's like, I want plots to be bigger and have scope and scale and things like this. So the sanitizer thing, where this is an interesting project to me because X, Y, and Z, because of constraints that I put on myself in the show, whatever. But yes, I don't know if there is anything wrong about doing a show with standard stuff in it, or if there's anything wrong with the person that annihilates at the mall doing coloring book and linking ring. I think that's all, Eugene's thing of like, there's many rooms in the House of Magic is a super legit thing.
And I think that's also key. It's, if I taught my act to somebody now, for the first thing, it has to be somebody who would want to or need an act.
Yeah.
So that's a certain
That's
person.
its own thing.
And it's usually not you. It's not someone who I am currently sharing a bill with that's looking to learn something new,
of course,
and a whole routine from someone. So that also means that you're sort of giving somebody a leg up or whatever to do something, and they will invariably have to. Yeah, they do. And that's where also, but also like, so you can go to, I'm just going to end up by juggling on tall unicycle or whatever. Yeah. And that's, that can be your thing to start with. Because I do think that no matter what you do, you will change what you do along the way. What you find interesting when you're 10 and what you find interesting when you're 20 and 30 will hopefully change. And that will then find itself reflected in your choice of material.
Yeah. And I think there is, like, if you talk to somebody like Mac or any act that we vibe with, Charlie Fry, anybody, it's in their bones that they don't want to be doing those standard things out of books or whatever. They're not buying something and putting it in the show right away. That's just not, it's almost like I have this mental thing. I mean, God, you could ask Tyler about the million times I've called him and been like, oh, I love this trick, I think. I just feel dumb because it's not whatever. It's like some trick from a book from the 60s, fits me, I could do it, and I have something completely different to say about it. Maybe the prop is even different, but it works. And it's like, he's like, well, then he's like, no one else is doing it. There is no version of that. Some guy wanted to pass it on in a fucking book in the 60s. No one else jumped on it. And now you're benefiting years later. And it's like, I literally wrote about that in the introduction to my book, where I was like, the reason I'm putting this in here is that this is a book that would have helped me do what I want to be doing now. Yeah. And I also don't do the material anymore. So it's like, there's a weird thing there, a weird disconnect where, I have some like deep-seated aversion to doing things that I think are standard fare. And yet I still get a big kick out of it. Like that trick, working on that thing. I'm pointing at something, sorry for the listeners, but like, that's a standard prop, but the thing with it is so different.
And I think absolutely, and
it still makes me uncomfortable.
We are basically now, I think we're zeroing in that we're both neurotic about that kind of thing,
or rambling,
and a bit of both. But it's also like I'm definitely like conflicted about doing that sort of stuff, but I also don't think that it's wrong. And we've mentioned music, and we've mentioned and the fact that no one else is doing it, and no one else is like. And then there's levels of there too, like coloring book is on one end of the spectrum, and doing the invisible egg is on another end of the spectrum. It's
and
like
no one else is touching that routine, I bet.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. But then every now and then, that's the thing though, you go, like what you're saying about, I changed the prop and I did this, and I'm like, oh, well, I have that. Oh, I have this thing too. And you use in there to demonstrate that the invisible egg actually is levitating. You use a linking ring or just a hoop that you take over it. And in my magic act, where I used the necktie that goes up and down, I also use linking rings, because I do it over that's what I do to prove that the necktie bird is actually floating. So I had those props in my bag, but they're all like, so it's like, it fitted me because the concept of it is so silly there is obviously no egg.
Sure.
It is, and getting that going, and that fitted me well to be that idiotic together with the kid. But my twist on it is sort of completely my own. And anyway, I'm starting immediately as I say it. I start to justify it again of why. But it's great. You are basically, this is not something that you can. This is something that you have to grapple with. How original can you be at any given moment or whatever? And what is stolen? And if you take 3 moves from 3 different routines, does that make you all that more better? Or the fact that you thought of this yourself and then somebody told you that that's actually from the Jinx issue 60 or whatever, like that you. So all in all, I guess it doesn't matter, but that doesn't mean that when authenticity and originality is one of the things that you genuinely care about, and when you see it in others and in yourself, then you're going to feel neurotic about it, because we both do then.
Which is such an odd, because I mean, again, this is just repeating, but like somebody else put it out because they wanted you to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And then we are still saying like,
I don't want to do this because it's a hack, because it's in the book. But it's true. Like the amount of work that you did on your book with every word that's scrutinized, with the drawings, with the pictures, with all of those things and all of that work. And you go, it is now finally, and with editors and copywriters and everything, then you get to a point where going, now it's ready out there and you've considered everything and you put it out. And then the fact that somebody is actually doing it or is asking you questions about it is just awesome.
Oh, it's unreal. And it's like, I've even run, so the two great scenarios to mention here. One is that people who are lazy dickheads I think the reason that I'm so gun shy of it is that lazy dickheads will use those things against us. So they'll say, oh, well, like, okay, so a great example is Rudy Kobe's act, Rudy's a hero and a friend, and Rudy came up with his Nikki Terminator legs table thing, which is a huge evolution over the trick in a book that it's based on, right? And it's become this like lifelong battle where, he added wheels and he added this design to the table that's genius, and he added the top part. He added all this stuff to make it a deceptive trick. And people just go, oh, well, it's in a book, so I can do it. Just like he did. It's in a book, so don't try to tell me that whatever. And it's like, but see, and I think that stuff is in the back of my head about how people can burn me. Like some asshole was like, went off on me about how the phone number gag in my act, he's like, well, look, it's in this book. And it's literally like some asshole's How to Flirt with Women, magic trick book that came out after I started doing the trick. And he's like, well, look, it's kind of published, and it's not the same gag even, but he's like, look, it's published. And so I think part of my neuroses is that I've gotten burned by it.
Yep. It's also, though, I think it's part of the neurosis. I also think when you're a thoughtful person, then this is not one of those things that is clear cut.
Yeah.
It is a murky area and it's particularly murky within magic because there people do actually publish their routines. So it's little bit, it can be less murky within other, like within music, it's not murky. If you say you wrote the song and it's the Beatles that did it, then it's a clear cut sort of thing. But well, I don't even know if that helps it. But or within, like when you, because I'm trying. Then I tried to. The reason why I'm now stuck is because I tried to come up with something that's like completely original. But that's why Everything is a Remix, which Steal Like an Artist stole from, and Steal Like an Artist, the book by Aston Cleon, became big. And I can't now remember the name of the guy who did Everything is a Remix, which is a totally awesome series on YouTube you should check out. And and there is almost nothing that you find, or like Funny Bones, if you know that movie, where there's like, it's about the Mr. Originality, but he just went to another country and did the routines that he knew from a different continent. So he was known as the original guy, but then he stole material. What happened then? Or not even, So it's not this is not the question that we will solve.
No. I know we're all I mean, I wouldn't be here. I just smashed the microphone with my finger, but sorry to all the listeners.
No.
Boom.
They love it.
But like, they love it. They love a little, it's like 4D. You go watch Jurassic Park and they squirt water in your face, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't be here without seeing Tom Mullica, and I wouldn't be here without seeing Mac a million times. And I could list all the guys where it's like, that's the reason that I'm doing making the choices that I'm making is based off of choices that they made, or things that they published, or things that I just witnessed them do that change the way that I think about it. So it's and this is the second, I was going to say this earlier, but the second scenario is that I read these books, I see a trick I like, and I go, I should do that trick or fuck with it or whatever. That guy put it in a book on purpose. Animan published all these genius things, and then I go, well, other people have access to it and whatever. So my friend Reed Nussbaum, who is a Tannins camper who works at Tannins now and does, a very funny guy with great chops, we're talking about one of the tricks in my book. There's a card trick in my book that I'm kind of proud of the structure of, and took one of my favorite close-up tricks and like turned it into a stand-up thing, and with potential to have like a really strong mentalism hit right off the bat, that if not, just ends in a gag and whatever, right? With a strong ending. There's whatever card trick I like. And he was like a little apprehensive about wanting to do it. And it's like, no, I'm so happy that you want to do this thing that I put in a book. But he has the same neuroses about some of that stuff that we do. You know, he does tricks. He's like I think he's, as close to being like David Williamson's student as you can get. And he's fucking nailing it. And he does some of Dave's tricks, but he does a lot of original stuff too. And so but I think Dave wants him doing those tricks. And so we've even talked about, there's a couple tricks that I did for years and years and years that were very derivative of my teachers and whatever. I still kind of do close up maybe. But it's like, that's the point. You need those things.
Yeah.
And also like he gets to carry on some of those tricks, maybe in 30 years, maybe a lot of guys do Dave's Torn and Restored Transpo or something, but he's gonna be the guy that's like got work on it and does it and carries it on. I don't know. There's a lot of things like that.
I think it's great. I mean,
oh yeah.
And I think you're like, even in a routine, whether you have made the bones of it yourself or not, that's not really what it then comes about. So my whole, I'm writing this book and the whole idea there is that the reason why what the showman does, like he doesn't do juggling, he doesn't do magic or acrobatics, he is dealing with the attention of the audience.
Yeah.
So that's like the fundamental level of what we do. And when I believe in that, then I also go, well, it doesn't matter. And that is the thinking that has gotten me to use lots of different things that I'm doing. And when I'm doing my family shows and they're in Norwegian and it's in Norway and I have a different need for producing new material also. I'm doing now for the 5th time, I'm doing the same festival and I need new material each time.
Sure.
So I'm doing some of my old stuff each time.
Yeah.
Some of my
People
killer routines. Yeah. But I also want to have, like I'm doing like 2 sets of half hour or whatever, and I want to have at least one new major thing, if not 2 new major things that gives a theme to what's going on. And then you have like, okay, but you can go out there and then I did a hydrostatic glass routine.
Sure.
And it's like, I like that thing, but I didn't know how to do it. And then I found in Silly Billy's, what's his compendium? He's got this thick book.
The big one, yeah.
Yeah, the big one there where there is a routine, and I used that combined with my own, and then got some great feedback from the routine I did, or like how I've talked about the elements of the show, because by then I'd had fire and because I put something like I had all the elements throughout the show, and then I tied it together in the end, and it was a strong ending. So sometimes the fact that you need to do something new and you pull together these 3 different routines, and all of a sudden you go, well, there was that time when I did that hydrostatic class, and then next time you bring it out, each time you find a new, of course, little detail to it that can make me justify it to myself for why I'm doing it. But also what I was going to say, doing it there, I'm doing it kind of under the radar, because there's nobody there. So you can...
No magicians are going to say anything.
No magicians are going to say anything, or no one's going to see. And then when I do it, everyone is having a good time. So I'm running when I'm not being chased.
Sure.
But at some point, then when I take that family show, and you saw me working a shopping center or whatever in Denmark there, and you do it
in the shopping center.
Well, it was a funny situation, really. But that you then... that then it's like it does, like the material holds up because it seems like a cohesive whole, like the tricks that I do or whatever. So I don't know. I guess it's just an ongoing neurosis exploring this kind of stuff. It's almost impossible. But it also comes down then to what we're taking it back to Magic Camp.
Sure.
The whole social aspect of this, where you're getting together with other people who are passionate about the particular branch of performing that you're also into. Yeah. And all these kids coming together, and so many of them saying, I don't know any other magicians or whatever. And then you get together with these other people who either knocks you off your peg if you think you're the bomb, and whether you compare yourself to the other kids your age, or you compare yourself to Suzanne, who does the cups and balls, and you thought you knew what you were doing, and then you go, okay, she's done it 10,000 times, and she is only scratching the surface or whatever. So,
and you learn through teachings. I learned so much shit.
So this is great. And this is one of the things I wrote down here, because it's one about the development of the kids, and the other one is like, because you learn so much.
Every year I get so much out of it.
And to then think about what kind of material do you, because you mainly now talked about you were teaching a move, but then you did teach a trick as well. But you talked to them about, so what's some examples of something that happened this camp where you go, I didn't know that I was doing that, or
I'm going to use Suzanne as an example. So she was teaching cups and teach it later on in the week. So we learned to transfer, right? And then the kids are like, okay, we've seen you do cups. Now show us this phase or whatever, right? They want to ask about specifics of it. And then she's explaining it, but she's explaining it in a group setting for the first time, which is unbelievably cool, because now she's learning little things about it too, which is like huge for me. I know that, so I taught the transfer the first year that I went there, kind of as like, I use this as a building block move. I use it all the time. I use it in a lot of stuff. I think it would be beneficial to you. You learn a lot about small object stuff when you learn that transfer. I think especially through his systems. I sound like I'm in a cult, but
no. But we like the work of Al Schneider, and you have managed to get me onto him by lending me his massive book.
Yeah, big fanboy. I'd like to be his editor. I'd like to pay John Lovick to be his editor, is actually what I mean. But I love his work. But so I learned a lot about palming, and I learned a lot about motivated transfers, and I learned a lot about tons of stuff through just that transfer, right? I think it's like small object, meat and potatoes, real stuff. And so the first year I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Instead of teaching jumping matches or, a 4-ace thing, let's do this transfer for a day. And it was fantastic, right? Because I got to go, oh my God, here's what I've been doing wrong for a decade immediately, but just by doing it for kids and then through trying to
explaining and justifying. And it's very different when you do one fake pass where you take one coin and put it into the other hand and it's not there in the show. It's such a small kind of thing, but when you're doing it there for 2 hours, you start to scrutinize every single thing. It's like you take this thing that used to be one event, you put the coin into the hand, or apparently put the coin into the hand, And now you break it down to how does this right hand turn that has the coin, how far does it move across when you put it in?
What am I thinking?
And all these little things.
And I know the talking points. That's the fucked up part, right? So I can totally, like, if you were to almost quiz me on his book, I could tell you like the drills and these fingers touch these fingers here, or this is how you meet in the center line, and this is how you motivate the transfer. But like, when you're boots on the ground trying to show it to somebody else, you go, oh shit. You know, I can do a false transfer, but if I tweak this little part now, it looks better because I can tell them that. You know, I'm seeing my mistakes in them.
Yes, you're tweaking them, but you're also tweaking what you realize. You just show them something and then they start to mirror you as they should. And then you immediately will start to see ways to improve it, which is also seeing improvements in yourself.
Yeah.
And of course, then you were talking about one other thing that's something you learn is learning how to talk to people about the craft and being sensitive about it, because it's all of a sudden you have to talk to kids or something.
Yeah, which is out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah. So then you need to look at yourself as a teacher. And I mean, when you're teaching, I guess you're teaching the past, you also have the benefit of knowing his book so well, or whatever, knowing his technique so well that it actually transfers into when you're teaching them too. You can teach following his style.
Yeah.
But when you're teaching other things, you need to approach what's the best way in terms of pedagogy to make it easy for them to grasp this.
Yeah.
Do you encounter some when we're teaching the matches, or are you all teaching stuff that you already knew how to teach, or when you're trying to teach something new?
Man, I ran into so many issues so I did the show. Are we able to pause for a second?
Yeah.
I'm just going to use the restroom quick if that's cool. Live before, you know, maybe however many of them know who I am, but those chunks of the act really aren't on the internet or whatever. And so it was a lot of like, why was that guy so bad at listening to directions, or was that a difficult night, or, you know, do you always trip over the guy like this, or what about this thing? And so Derek Hughes kind of had this great idea to pivot into, he was kind of guiding questioning into stage cueing and stuff. And so I've really never taught stage cueing to anybody before. I did a talk about it at Magic Live, kind of out of my own ego or something, because I hated that people would come up to me at conventions and accuse me of using like a stooge. And I would go, have you ever seen me like in a club or anything? You know, the same stuff happens every night, but it's because I'm stage cueing the guy, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that technique. You know, as I set the guy down, I go, that's great, do it again. Or, you know, the classic, it's carny shit. Yeah. But, you know, it's the Dr. Q hypnosis act. I'm telling the guy
Blackstone did it when he did
of course, the committee.
Dove pan and the kid putting the ribbon into the broken egg and all that, getting the kid to act so weird.
Oh,
was
yeah.
Done by telling the kid funny things to do.
Dude, the committee, that's all that was. You know, to say you're a police officer. What do you do for a living, sir? Like, ridiculous. But then, so, I think I do a pretty tame version of that, honestly. But Derek was like, you know, by the end of it, I was doing the cues for my act, not with any intent that they do them. And I kind of said like, hey, this is like, I feel like I'm naked here. I'm talking about, these are things I've never vocalized. I did a 30-minute talk at Magic Live about it. Twice, right? So one year did it 2 times in a row. Loved it, felt good about it, didn't reveal too much of my own stuff. And those people had seen me do the act earlier in the convention, which was kind of like the bit. And I have compiled stuff with the hopes of someday, I don't think there's any really great resources on that technique, so I always wanted to compile. I have a shitload of stuff here on that. Every marketed thing, every stupid. I've asked a million people about it. This guy knew Bobby Baxter, and so I asked about this technique he would do. Whatever, you know, was it always like this? Whatever. So I gave a talk about it, but I never had any intent on teaching anybody any version of it. And so these kids are like now 50 minutes of that class, because of the questions Derek and the kids started asking, became a stage cueing lecture. And it's like, I didn't really want to talk about it, but I learned a lot about what I do through talking about it. It felt weird.
Yeah.
And I kept going. I kept stopping, for better or worse, and going, is anybody getting anything out of this? Is this really what the 40 of us want to spend time on? And it's like, they do, even though they don't know or think or whatever. They're not going into it with the intent of doing it. They just benefit from seeing,
but it is
stagecraft stuff.
And it's great to see this stuff is, and when you're sharing that too, they're going, this is the stuff that I am actually doing.
Yeah.
And what I find as well, when I'm sharing or talking about what I actually do in the rackets and why the different things happen or whatever, there's like, people can't steal it. I know from how unbelievably hard it was to teach it to someone.
Of course.
When I really tried to teach them. So you can just tell really freely about it. And what you hope is that the interest that they have in it is going to translate into something in their own act. You're going, oh, that's what he was talking about there and then. Or the fact that they now know about the concept of stage cueing, which is basically just telling people on or off the mic, but maybe off the mic or whatever, that to do stuff. Yeah. And then, the bad thing would be to go, say you picked a 5 of diamond. Yeah. Or like, that's like, okay, so that's one
little way. Different.
But it's to get funny situations or to create enhanced audience interactions that where the sum of it is that the audience is rolling around on the floor with laughter. Yeah. Because you're of your interactions with the person on stage.
And that's always the goal is and this came from watching Mac and Mullica and all these guys, where the audience goes away saying, I was there the night where XYZ happened. Mm-hmm. And we don't need to get way into the stage cueing thing on this. No. I mean, obviously I'm diverting a little bit, but that whole, like,
you're learning when you're telling them about it. Let's just skipping around.
I learned tons about
the details about that.
Yeah, but it's huge for me to be like, this is the thing that when I go to work at Mad Apple or whatever, and I'm walking around in the pre-show, and a guy comes up to me and he goes, "Holy shit, I've seen you before. I was here the night where the guy kept saying this and he couldn't blow into the whistle, and then he did this thing, and then he pulled his hearing aid off." Like, it's when that works, it's like another, and I think some of those kids are just, the reason that it was so interesting was that they didn't understand the layers that went into it. So just to be able to show artifice or show whatever, layers
of deception, because this is the sort of stuff as well with me as well, where my act is also filled with deception, where people go, I was there the day you fell off the stage. I was like, it's one of the frequently asked questions is, did you mean to fall off the stage? Because they can't.
Which means that. You did it right.
Yeah, which means to me, because I was saying yesterday to Adam, and we were talking about the same stuff I referenced before.
Sure.
Like, I grew up doing magic, so then there's magic elements in most of the stuff that I do.
Yep.
Where I have pushed it one level further, whether it is the arm twisting illusion or it is that you think you're watching a guy that genuinely don't care or know what they're doing.
Yep.
And I fall over and all that goes, but that isn't actually what's going on. I know exactly what I'm doing down to every little breath. And if the fall comes this time, then I fall over like this way, then I got to pause before I do the line, or depending on. Oh, yeah. So anyway, this is that thing, what they see then. They see stagecraft, and even to them, they're going like, because they're worried about all right, so you got a ring, it disappears, it comes back in an impossible location. Yeah. And that's like the outline of it. And that's what their first interest is. How did you make the ring disappear? All that. But like, when what you're doing is you're working on the level of crafting the actual performance to another level, where they just think, I was there and he was just so funny, he came up with that thing in the moment. And you go, no, I engineered that situation to happen so that it is as close as possible to stuff where I have killer material. even though it's improvised.
Well, like we're hired guns, right? So we need to function at a certain level every night.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, you have 15 minutes to get from A to B and bring them to this level. And so if I think a lot of those kids, at least the ones I talked to that were like, I knew you did something, but I didn't know that it was this drastic or whatever. Like, I think that so there were kids there that were saying, I saw you at Magi Fest when I was 10, and I've seen you a million times, and I know that the same things happened, but I didn't know that it was planned to this level of blank.
Yeah.
And it's like, great, that's the intended thing. Yeah. And so they were just, I learned a lot about my own shit, but they saw that there's at least layers to, because I think my show can, most nights, hopefully it feels like it's really going off the rails, like in a non-controlled way. It's controlled chaos, but in a way that like they genuinely don't know if we are fucked.
They have the feeling like this could go wrong. Somebody said that the yesterday. I wasn't sure if you were gonna manage to do this, and that's also perfect because they feel like when I get through the rackets, they feel like, oh, we're at some kind of sports moment. They were a triumph. Yep. God, it actually happened. That's great.
Oh yeah.
And with you as well, you get to the end, and then it actually happens, and nobody got injured, and nobody got punched in the face, and all that, or whatever it is. Like all that stuff means that it is like we are watching a genuine unfolding in the moment event. Like, and they will go, I was there when the guy did this.
I just saw that great example of that last night. That kind of like sports mode kind of thing. I was walking down the strip after meeting up with people, and I just was like randomly, I was at the Wynn, I'm getting a coffee, which is very close to just walking to Circus Circus. So I walked to Circus Circus and I go see the show, and it was a hand balance gal who was great. And she was, she's going to kick the ball into the hoop or whatever, basketball hoop. And the audience was just ass for the first, great clown comes out, does his thing. They're horrible audience. It's a Thursday night at 6. I get they're there to see a free thing. They happen to be playing in the arcades. He comes out, has a hard time. She comes out, throws the first thing, does her whole great act, but with very little applause. Kicks the ball into the thing, misses. And everybody now gives a shit. Like I saw this genuine shift in 80 people standing around that bizarre circus, arena thing. And it's like, and they kind of go like, it's a free show. I'm not that committed. My kid's at the icy machine sticking his head under this kid. Everybody else on their phone. The second that she missed it, everybody kind of gave a shit. And she kind of shrugged, gave a nod, picked it up again, nailed it. The first time that they burst into applause was that moment where it felt real.
Yeah.
It was weird. But it's like, to me, that was just further proof of everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
And it's interesting too, like that we're filling the same spot and we're doing the same, there's something similar about it. Your thing feels like it's going off the rails, and my thing too feels like it's going off the rails.
Yeah.
I start saying, I'm going to go through the rackets and it's going to do this, and it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And you come out and you're doing safe magic, here's a trick, there's gags and stuff, and it's like, oh, here's a trick with a sports thing.
Immediate failure.
And then you're going, and they're going, oh, that's great. And then by the time you get the person up and that, like, we get into the meat of that bit, it really shakes people up, and they're going like, oh my God, this is like nothing is going right here. But it keeps being funny, which is the same thing as what I'm doing. Like everything is going wrong, but you keep laughing because it's not bad wrong.
Right. And but it also it starts with clean, concise, I'm a magician, you come out, I'm going to do this task. And then immediately the task is fucked up. I say, is this your, I do a full mentalism buildup, and the first thing that a person says is no. And then I do the football. So, and it's like, but what we are in that show, I think, are pattern breakers, right? So they've watched 50 minutes of tight, concise circus stuff. and the song is going and this thing is moving at the right time, and then we come out and
breaks that pattern,
and we're a pattern break, a hard record skip in that show. And I think that's why our shit works there, is because we aren't. I think if you were like, and now the magician, and you do a clean, concise, beautiful thing, it's not the same vibe in that chunk of the show. Later on in the show, I think it's important, or the reason that our sets work in that thing is that it is like a hard record skip,
something completely different, and
and kind of a break. And I always tell them that it's a really bad time to leave and take a piss. Because they all have to pee at that point in the show.
Always a lot of people.
I go, there's a part coming up where it's dark and music. You can pee whenever you want when I leave.
Oh, that's funny.
But
but it's interesting. Whenever you do talk about your act in detail, I do learn something, because you just have to vocalize it and you become aware. That's why I'm doing it. And it's almost like the difference between actually doing something and then when you're writing the book about what you did. Because when you're doing that, there comes in all sorts of theory and stuff, because people go, what Jay asked me at some point, and well, I go, because I don't understand it. Like, what is it about when you're doing the sword, or you're doing this thing, the ropes, or you're doing the spoon? And I connect to it, and you're doing it. It's good. Like, I like it. And what is that? And I'm going, well, I think and then that's what my whole theory stuff I think is about. And what I'm doing, and then in 200 pages or whatever, is to give you a sensibility of how to approach things, how to approach the audience, how to approach the material, how to approach, and that's the best way to get at those things. But then I give you the abstract framework of the theory or whatever.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that when I sit down, I go, now I'm going to look at this aspect, and now I'm going to do, because when I'm jamming with you, or I'm jamming as organically as anyone. But it's still informed by a certain way of understanding what I do, and I've put a quote now in the beginning of my book from Eugene Berger, which I can't remember, but he basically goes, whatever magic trick that you do has an underlying theory in it, whether you know it or not. If you're aware of the theory, you can utilize that to maximize what it is that you're actually doing. Because there is a thinking behind the trick, even if it was just a one-page thing that you read in a pamphlet from the 60s, and then you do it and you say the gags from the 60s and you do it exactly as it says there, there is a whole layer of thinking in there, or unrelated. You look at the quote from the Bible, or like from or something, and then you go, it's just an image, but then you can take that image, and in the sermon the preacher would unpack that, and all of a sudden it would make sense to you of why this is, even though it's a kind of strange thing about sheep herders or whatever, all of a sudden that thing is about you and the current day, or like a great novel or whatever will be more true or so. So I think that's like taking one thing and then unpacking it to understand what it actually is. And that's what happens when you're teaching, I think. You sort of, you question yourself, and then you say the thing, and then immediately as you say it, you got to justify why it is like that. And then you go, oh my God, this is why it is, and that's how it is. And I think that's one of the aspects. It's you learn about what you do by teaching it to someone, because then you have to actually vocalize what it is that you do.
Yeah. I benefited massively from writing a book. I mean, the first book, I think. I really, and the pamphlet and whatever, other lecture notes. Every time I've ever had to like teach something, I learned a lot about it. Even just construction wise. Like I taught, we shot a thing for Tannins a few months ago where it's like a trick that I love a lot, but I never did it with any large regularity. Like I've maybe done it 50 times or 100 times for people. And I really like it as a trick, but it just doesn't fit my normal means of performing, whatever. But in teaching it, I was like, oh shit, finding little ways of like, I fell back in love with this thing in a weird way and found kind of my stride with it, which is weird. But I don't know. Yeah, there's tons and tons of things that have developed out of me having to talk about stuff, I think, with somebody. Like I you know, when I first was doing the spoons routine, I was talking through it with a friend, and then talking through it with a couple of friends who worked in the show, and then talking through it with, just like my trusted little core group of people or whatever. But then most of it was just doing it. And then but I wasn't vocalizing what I was doing at all for years because I was just performing it and it was developing. And now going back to camp and doing that stage cueing talk, comedy workshop thing, it's like, damn, I put a lot of safeties in there, and I put a lot of like things to make sure that I'm effective every night. Like we're talking about, like how we both have struggled with putting new material in because we're not in a position where like we can't go to Cirque and go, yeah, I'm going to do a different first 5, I think.
I'm just going to jam something out.
I'm just going to jam it out, and then 20 shows in, it'll be good.
No, you need to kill each night because those people paid $100 to get in.
Right. And it's just like, it's not fair to you. It's not fair to the job. It's not fair to the audience. But I will say, and somebody was just giving me shit. They're like, it's such fucking bullshit that magicians would go to the Magic Castle and work on a new piece.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm like, not defending myself, but I'm like, I'm totally that guy. Like I go in and, I do the stuff that people want to see. Because there are magicians that like go there. I think the castle is important in that, like, there's a magician from Spain that when I go see him there, I'm like, I do really want to see him do the color changing knives. Like, I hope he does his, I hope he plays the first album kind of thing, right? And so I fulfill that need, and I do strong stuff when I go there. I do act as known, and I do hit the right points to make it a strong set. But also, like, where else am I doing 21 sets in a week in the best environment? And, I'm not going and doing something for the first time, but I'll go there like the sanitizer thing.
Yeah.
100%. I'm going to do that in September.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's great. And I think it's like, I have this thing of like, if you're doing more than one thing, you have the 3/4 mark of it. If I'm just doing the rackets, and then you go there, you can put in something new, or to do, you do your killer opening, or depending on how long it is, if it's just 15, 20 minutes, you do your killer opening and your stuff so you have them and deliver everything, and you got your ending.
Oh, yeah.
But then you have this thing in the middle where they now have bought into you, and that thing that you do, as we have spoken about, that needs to be at a certain level before you do it there. You're not going out and just jamming it.
Right.
Like the amount of times that we've spoken about this thing and talked about it. And even if each jam, we come up with 2 verbal things that, like, it all is there in the bank, so that when you go out, you have spoken and worked on this for hours.
You've done it. I think I've gone back and watched the video. Right. I know what beats I want to hit. I know what things in that first performance I completely missed. I know how I want to end it now. I know, at least loosely. I'm 80% there, maybe.
Yeah.
I've got the landmarks.
But that's what you think. But then we remember Delgadio as well. Derek's going 100 shows in. And I go, finally, I'm starting to get somewhere with this. And then you're 200 shows and 400 shows in. Yeah. And you go, now I know what this is. So as much as you now say, because to me, this new thing of yours with a hand sanitizer is a huge thing, because it's not just connected to this, what you're doing now. It's everything. Like it could be
so goofy.
It could be a thing that can be a running gag, a through line that they don't even know has started, you use it for all of this stuff. It's so potent to actually be like the next level of the act, because it has, to me, the connective tissue that it can be one thing in the beginning, transform in the act, be a callback, and be so many things as it goes on. Like we've spoken about, there's so many, all the different people that you've spoken to who have had different inputs. I go, in the act itself, there could be one thing from me, one from Charlie, one from Mac, one from, and the rest of it is yours.
Sure.
But then all the gags that I came up with when we were like going, oh, this would be funny, I'd like to see this.
Yeah.
And everything that whole line of reasoning that Charlie was thinking of, all of those things can now find their place within the act, because this is a utility object with so many things. So that's that's really, really fun. And then you're going, oh, well, so you have this unbelievably original kind of thing, which is taking the concept from the ancient times. And like last seen by Mike Cavaney at a conference in an unrecognizable shape to what you're doing.
Where he was bringing it back.
Where he was bringing it back from
60 years prior,
Yeah. Like, so
70 years prior,
70
80 years prior.
Yeah. So to take that in and to make it revolutionizing, and then the fact that it has such a big potential to spread all across, like to be a flavor of a seasoning for the rest of your show.
Yeah. The way I've been writing about it is, it's the closest thing to a puppet sidekick that I think I could feasibly get to.
So great.
Right. It's like,
so I totally agree with this though, like to go back to the writing and learning from teaching. Because when I'm writing, then I am essentially teaching. You're organizing your thoughts into a way so that you can talk about it. And this podcast has been that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Second season, or first, second, and fourth season, which is now in it. There's only like 4 or 5 episodes left of this 30 episode thing about play and showmanship. And I have learned so much about it. Stuff like when I'm writing it, I am, of course, the reason why I'm sitting down to write about it is that I think that I have a lot to say about it.
Of course.
So then you start to write. But a lot of the time, even now when I'm working with Jay Gilligan as an editor on this other book, not about play, but what I was talking about in the second season, it is so much more evolved now. And it's so much more, I'm boiling it down and I'm seeing more interconnections. And as we have moved, I've moved 40 pages out of that document myself.
Wow.
And then with him, we're hitting another 40. So it'll go from being just over 300 to being about 200. So by the end of this, I think we'll have like a 200-page manuscript. But not because we have lost anything of the original thread that was in there, but because we go, oh, actually, this is a repetition. This is a little... But anyway, I am learning so much more, and I'm being so much more concise in what it is that I am actually saying.
Yeah.
So expressing yourself clearly on the word, on writing is like hard. It's similar to trying to teach. It's also like
you would be doing somebody a disservice if there's somebody who really wanted to learn, and their first exposure is this book that you're writing. If it could have been a 200-page thing and you give them something that's 260, you're doing them a disservice, right? If I put too much, pointed to a phenomenal example. But like that's almost 300 pages, I think.
Yeah, right.
But it's like, it is, and I say this in the class too, I go, listen, if all we did was tricks all week and I just showed you 50 million tricks, you'd be fucked. It happened to me, right? When I was a young magician, this happens to every magician, I think. Tyler talks about this. This is like one of his big talking points. But we all have too much magic already. And this is a Eugene thing too.
Yeah.
We all have too much magic already. We know too much, whatever. To the point where, like, if you asked me when I was 8 to show you something, you probably have to go to the show.
Go in 10 minutes.
But it's to the point where it's doing us a disservice, right? Where when I was 8 and you said do a trick, it's like, fuck, okay, well, I've got this thing and I've got this thing and I've got this thing, and to the point where like you can't even do a thing. You don't have a trick that you can do. What's your show? Well, I know 100 things. I guess I could come up with 10 of those 100 that I want to do.
It's also like what we were talking about, how the kids then are watching you talk about your act, and they realize that there is like 40 more minutes where you're talking, and that's just scratching the surface because it doesn't give them any techniques of how to actually learn. Just for you to talk about what's going on in that 10-minute bit of yours or whatever, it is a huge thing. Whilst to when you first start out, and I remember this for myself, but like then you go, to do, what do you got to show us? Well, here's the thing. Well, pick a card and, oh my God, here's the 2 jacks on top, and now your card is in between those 2.
Yep.
Cool, done. And that was to me like, well, I know a lot of things. I know that trick, for instance, but it is just a sequence of mechanical moves and stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anyone rolling on the floor with laughter. It doesn't have the huge gasps or the like. So you think
but it could be the thing.
It could. I'm not belittling that trick or anything.
Sure.
But when I first did it, or did 5 minutes of me with linking safety pins, but without having anything to say about it.
Yeah.
And one of the other magicians going, so what are you thinking of doing for script here?
Yeah.
And it just devastating me, because I sort of realized that I'm just sitting here fiddling with pins on a close-up mat. And it is, stuff is happening, impossible things are happening. But to me, that was like as far as I gotten with that, at least at that point. And
and why would they give a shit about you fiddling with pins?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that's also that thing of going, you get this, you keep reaching new plateaus.
Yeah.
And the plateaus never ends. The details might change, and what it is that you aim to achieve with it.
Yep.
Because a lot of the stuff that I'm thinking of now, which as much as I'm finishing season 2 and I'm doing all the writing, the thinking that I'm doing is now about making meaning. Like that's how do you do what I'm doing, squeezing through the racket and doing that whole thing, and it just being jokes, but to have it mean something more, like when you're putting it in a context, and what is there and what can I leverage after that to say specifically or not. Like, so I'm now looking at the whole piece of the thing and going, like, in the show, what does that mean, and where does that leave the audience at, and what can I use then afterwards to take them to new heights, or to have a transcendent experience or whatever.
This is probably a dumb question, but do you think that, I mean, obviously you're about to do a 50-hour deep dive into this, I feel like, but do you think that you can add meaning to anything? Like if some kid goes, hey, I have this thing with a washer.
Yeah, I mean, he just did.
I mean, he did. Yeah. I guess that's a bad example, but
whatever. But I think that you do, but you can't. No, it is difficult to add limitless meaning to anything.
If I force it, it feels forced.
Yeah,
every time.
Yeah. So it needs to come out of something genuine, and sometimes it can just be a little line or whatever. But sometimes it is like we just watched Suzanne do the thing about a journey through life, and she's doing the cups and balls, and that's great. And I'm talking about the nature of reality whilst doing magic, doing the ropes. And in there are meaning, but there's only a certain amount that you can do. And if you, but there's also not a reason why you aren't talking on a deep level for every trick.
Sure.
As well. Like you can, and then that just becomes the flavor of it, and they will go, I didn't know it, but this guy is a bit of a preacher, or this guy is a poet. Or so if you just use that language like Jared did, you sort of go, this is a whole thing. Remember, saw Jared Koff doing it. So you get like everything that he says and does in that thing has that same kind of layer of meaning where you go, it is about the cup and balls, but there's something more going on here. He's pointed to you by his opening speech. He places you in a certain state of mind so that everything else that comes after it, now you're looking at it with eyes looking for meaning because you kind of expect that it's there.
Right.
Whilst a lot of the time when a magician or a person comes out and haven't thought it much through, then what you see is actually what you get. And there isn't necessarily anything more in there. There might be more for you to find as a sensitive viewer, audience member. You can see things in it, but they might not be placed there. So by being more and more aware of the themes and the material that you do and what doing what you do points at, you can make those things obvious so that they start to think it in the same way that they go, I was there that night and I thought this when you said this.
Yeah.
And you are saying it like that. It's like I'm going back to this thing where I often say, David White, the poet, saying when he's reciting his poems, and even when you're writing poems or so, It's that you're, but speaking poetry, as he's
Sure.
saying, the poet, like it's, as you speak it, it's like you're learning more about what's in the poem than what you actually put in there. So you realize that there's more and more. And my book that I'm writing now with Jay
it's coming out
is a poem.
as you,
And so like it just, I've used that, and then you deepen into it and you look and you can interpret. And that was the reason why that poem of the illuminated showman, I am a showman, faces the other way, all that was written in there to be a speech like the one that Jared used in his opening of his thing.
Yep.
I want to do something really idiotic first, and then I want to say this thing that lasts about 4 minutes, and it speaks about what I am and who I am and what that does and all that, so that now when I do the next thing after that, which is both silly, but it also keeps having these little pointers to more beautiful or more important issues, then you go, oh, I'm training you to see that I am being ridiculous, and I want you to be laughing all the way through, but I also want you to go, oh, that's interesting. Oh wow, why am I feeling?
You thought about this? Yeah. It's
all right.
Well,
I got to go to work.
Thank you.
Get
out of my house.
Thanks for having me.
Don't lose that job.
That's great. No, I'm not going to lose that job.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly had an excellent time conversing with Nick Diffatte, and it would be really great if you took a little bit of time and wrote a review on iTunes. It's been ages since somebody did that, and of course it is because I don't actually ask for it. My main passion in this thing is just to do the episodes and to get good reasons to have serious conversations with friends along the way. And somehow when we are putting on the recording, everybody brings out their best selves. And I do really love a good conversation. I love getting deeper, and somehow, when you're just having the average conversation and average just hang out, and it might not always go deep and stay on to a topic or whatever, even if this conversation was quite jumping along. But I do love it, but it is also great to know that the podcast is reaching new and more people. So please find it in your heart to go write a review, or even just go in. The easiest thing is just to click 5 stars. That's all I need. Yeah, if there was 6 in Norway, actually. There's 6 because it's based on the die, like you roll it, so there's the elusive 6. But if you come here and you get 6 on the die and then you put 5 stars, or you get 6 stars, people think you're taking the piss. So 5 stars is enough. So until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.